Okay, this is fantastic because now we've reached an amazing milestone. I mean, not only do you have a fully functioning website with some great products on it, but you're driving laser targeted traffic to it, with your ads that you're now testing. I mean, I know it's early days. We've got an awful lot more to show you here, but this is really, really great stuff. So if you're still with me, congratulations. Now, a subject that comes up quickly after we talk about advertising is retargeting. Now, if you don't know what retargeting is, you're in exactly the right spot because I'm about to answer that question right now. So what is a retargeting? Well, basically, when a visitor comes to your site, we will track their actions so we can target them later. All right, so they're going to come to our site. They might do all kinds of stuff. And we're going to gather information about them, not personal information. Don't worry about this as an intrusion of privacy or anything. We're tracking their actions, where they click, maybe the products they look at, whether they buy, whether they put stuff in the cart, these kinds of actions, yeah? So that we can go back to them later. So let's think about that in a little bit more detail. So what might they actually do on our site? Well, I just mentioned a couple there, but they could buy a product. Pretty straightforward. They might put something in the cart and not buy it, what we call an abandoned cart. Yeah, that can happen. In fact, that happens a lot. People put stuff in the cart, they fill out all of their details, their address, their email and everything there, but for whatever reason, they don't actually press the buy button. We'd like to go back to those people. Or they might just browse products. They might just browse around your website, looking at various products. They might come back to your site periodically, but not actually be doing anything. Or, maybe they have bought something in the past and now they're coming back, but they don't seem to be buying again, whatever it might be. But you can start to get a picture of all kinds of different actions that people are taking on your website, as they browse around. You've probably seen now with Lucky Orange, for example, if you've used that, one of my tips earlier on, you can see, in fact, how people move around your site. It's quite intriguing to watch those replays. That gives you an idea as well. Now, how can we retarget them? So this is at a very high level, but just to put some thoughts in your head here. Well, one of the things that we could do is send them an email. And I put in here, if we have an abandoned cart. I just talked about the abandoned cart, right? The fact that we have an email. So it makes an awful lot of sense to send an email to somebody and say, hey, I see you were basically on the point of buying my product. Here's a link to it. Please come and buy. Not quite as aggressive as that. I'll teach you a much nicer way of doing it, but you get the idea. We could show them ads on Facebook related to our site. If they're browsing around particular products, but not actually buying them, but genuinely seem to be showing an interest, we could show those ads on Facebook at a later stage. And we could also show those ads on other sites. Now, I'm sure that you've been onto a site, e-commerce, whatever. It could be any site where you are looking to buy something. And then half an hour later, you're looking at a completely different site, that is of interest to you. And suddenly there's an ad there that completely relates to the product that you were just looking at. It's kind of a bit spooky. It feels like it's following you around, right? It's kind of odd. That is retargeting in action. So there you go. Retargeting is a massive, massive subject. I'm going to, introduce you to some of the basic principles and some of the great things that we can do with retargeting. But in a nutshell, that explains what retargeting is. So we've established what retargeting is, and I've given you some ideas about how we might actually go about doing it. But what are the real advantages? Does this thing really work? Is it worth it? So one of the major things that retargeting can do is bring in new customers. So what I mean by this is it's a fairly rare event that somebody will come to your site completely new. They've never ever heard of you and just buy something from you. It does happen for sure. It will happen, no question. But it's against the odds to a certain extent. We like to feel confident from the person that we're buying from. And in order to do that, we need to see a brand or a product or a name around the place quite a bit before we feel at ease with going in and buying it. It's just how we are. It's human nature. So basically, imagine you've got somebody coming to your store a lot and clicking around but not buying. Yeah, so they're not a new customer yet. When they go back to the internet, go back to Facebook or start browsing around, then they start seeing your products following them around, right? As I explained before. Subliminally, they're getting exposed to your name and to your brand, and they start to feel more comfortable with it. So when they come back, either through retargeting or maybe an ad that you put on there later or whatever it might be, now they're no longer a cold customer. We've warmed them up, as marketers say. Yeah, we're warming them up to the point where they're hot, where they're actually going to buy, but they're no longer stone cold. So that process of retargeting will bring in new customers as part of the process. Now, we can also sell more products to existing customers. I alluded to using the email, for example, to go back to people. We can do more complicated stuff than that. The email's a simple example. It's extremely powerful. But, once we've got a product, everybody knows that selling to an existing customer is a lot easier than selling to a new customer. So we want to retarget those existing customers. And I can tell you that it is very, very effective. So I definitely want you to give this the time of day, but I do not want you to waste an awful lot of time on it and an awful lot of money, because there are many different techniques and it can get very complex. Yeah. The last thing I want you to do is to get lost in all of this and lose focus on your main purpose here, particularly if you're early stage with e-commerce. So I'm going to keep it simple for you. And in fact, in the next lecture, I'm going to talk about whether retargeting is even suitable for you at this stage. So we're all excited about retargeting, that's for sure. But should you be doing it at this stage? No, and in fact, what do I mean by at this stage? Well, most of the people that do my course, this course, are beginners with e-commerce, or perhaps struggling a little bit and looking for some good techniques. So this is sort of mainly focused at those people, sort of beginner people in e-commerce. And by this point, I've given you a massive amount of information. So what I don't want to do is layer on more complexity for you, okay? So what I'm trying to do here is guide you through the minefield to, the absolute most profitable way of doing this, and not lead you down some path that just leads in frustration and loss of money for yourself, okay? So in a nutshell, should you be doing it at this stage? Yes. But use free techniques in the beginning, okay? I do not want you to be spending money on retargeting. There are some very tempting and all kinds of amazing products that you can buy out there. Yeah? If you start Googling retargeting, you're going to find all kinds of great promises, okay? You can do what you want, obviously, but I really would prefer that you didn't do that right now. So what I want to do is just introduce you to a couple of basic free techniques that you already have. Okay, that's going to give you a great start. And then move to more advanced techniques only, all right, and I've done that in a different color, when you are comfortable with Facebook advertising and you are making a profit. Okay, this is really important. You need the model to be working for you. Okay, sometimes that's quick to happen, sometimes it takes longer. It'll definitely happen at some point. Never ever give up with this. But basically, you need to have this thing working profitably for you to then start spending money on retargeting. All right. This is not a situation that you want to get into where maybe your ads aren't working and you think, oh my God, what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to kill them, as Tim taught me. I'm going to start retargeting them all over the place and start spending even more money. Don't get in that loop, okay? Make sure you've got a profitable business model before you start retargeting later on. So we're going to look at a couple of free techniques in the next 2 lectures. See you in a moment. So let's have a look at the first free technique, certainly included in your Shopify plan, which is recovering an abandoned cart. And first of all, let's answer the question, why is it so important? Well, you may or may not realize, but 67%, 2/3 of carts get abandoned. All right, so basically somebody fills in all the details, but they do not go on to buy, okay, for whatever reason. There are a whole slew of reasons for that could happen. Now, what abandoned cart recovery can do is convert, all right, up to 50% of the abandoned carts into sales. So imagine that, yeah? You've got a huge number of abandoned carts just sitting there, but abandoned cart recovery software can pick those up and basically convert them into sales, all right? That's a pretty exciting stat if you step back and think about that. So let me give you an example of that. So let's take an example month where we have $10,000 worth of products that are added to the cart, right, on your store. Now, if we consider that 67% of those are abandoned, that means our final sales will be $3,300, right? So basically, we have lost, if you like, $6,700. Yeah? So if we implement an abandoned cart recovery strategy, and we recover up to 50% of those, we're going to add another $3,350 to the bottom line. Yeah? So I know those are sort of very broad figures, right? But it illustrates the point. And I'm saying up to, these are definitely not figures that you can hang your hat on, all right? These I'm giving these as general figures to make the point. But I hope you realize straight away why it is so important. So let's go and have a look at how we're actually going to do this on Shopify. So in order to illustrate this, I'm going to actually abandon a cart. So let me put this heart-shaped dog pendant into my cart. Click on Add to Cart. And then I'm going to head to the checkout. Now at this point, I'm not going to proceed any further to the payment, so I've effectively abandoned the cart. Now something's important to note is that Shopify will need the email address of somebody to send them, clearly, a reminder email. You'll see exactly how this is going to work in a minute. So if somebody simply just adds something to the cart and then doesn't proceed to give any of their personal details, it will be impossible for them in this instance to send a reminder email. So that's what I've done here, so I can fully illustrate the whole process. So let's head back over to the Shopify admin and see how that's been recorded. So I'm over here on the orders page, and now I'm going to go to abandoned carts. And up it comes. So this is my abandoned cart that I made now 49 minutes ago. And if I click on it, you will see all the typical things that you see associated with an order: address, item, etc. But at the top here, we have an email link. And if I was to email that directly to the customer and they were to click on it, it would take them straight to the checkout where all they have to do is pay. So we're making it as easy as possible for that payment to happen. So in order to do that, all I need to do is click on this Send a Cart Recovery email feature. And here I can change the subject or the custom message, which is entirely up to you. But if you click on Review Email, you will see that Shopify has already prepared a very nice looking email. So you left an item in your cart. Hi, you added an item to your cart and haven't completed your purchase, etc. And all they would have to do is click on this button, Items in your cart, and they would be taken straight to that payment process. Now, the only thing I do as a little extra here, as a little tip if you like, is in this subject, I like to put the name of my store before the complete your purchase, because people get so much email these days, you want them to recognize the store from which they have abandoned their cart. So I like to do that. I find it's an important feature. If you want to do that too, all you've got to do is go back and put it in here in front of your complete your purchase. But otherwise, you've got a great looking email and you could just basically send that off. Now that's a manual process, which is fine. But if you cast your mind back to what we were talking about only a few minutes ago, where I was illustrating the possibility of having $10,000 worth of sales and 2/3 of that being abandoned, we're talking about a lot of abandoned cart emails going out. So what we want to look at now is how we can automate the whole process. So if we come out of this, we do actually have here, and you may have just noticed, to automate abandoned checkout notifications, adjust your checkout settings. So I could click on that, or I can get to it from the settings as well, and just go to checkout. Now here, if we scroll down, we're going to see the abandoned checkout section, okay? And checked off by default is the automatically send abandoned checkout emails. So all we got to do is just check that on. Now we've got a couple of decisions to make. Are we going to send to anyone who abandons the checkout or anyone who is an email subscriber who has abandoned the checkout? Well, I would tend to go with this one. And then after that, we need to decide how soon after they abandon the checkout are we going to send the email. And you'll see that Shopify is recommending 1 hour. And that's not by any kind of chance. That is absolutely the best thing to do. You want to get them as soon as possible because you want them still to be hot. If you leave it too long, they may have changed their mind about the product and decided they're not going to buy it. So you want to basically hit them when it's still fresh in their mind and try to encourage them back to the store. So there we go, that's it. I hope you can see how simple and powerful it is to implement this kind of retargeting. So another great free technique is direct email. Basically sending emails to people. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but email, which has been around for more than 20 years now, is still the most effective form of direct marketing when done properly. That's the bit missing from that bullet point right there. Despite all these amazing advancements in marketing, if you have somebody's email address and you're able to communicate with them properly through email, it continues to be the most effective, and it's free. So we need to pay it some serious respect. Now, obviously, rule number 1 here is do not spam. Yeah, that would be the quickest way to get your domain blacklisted and all of your emails going into the junk if they even make it through the spam filter at all. So, when you write email to people, and I'll talk about which people in a minute, you want to imagine that you're having a real life conversation. Yeah, if you met somebody in real life, you wouldn't say to them, you just met them and you say, come over here and buy my product. Not at all. You might say, hey, I'd like to show you my store and get you to look around a bit. Or if they were previously a customer, you might say, oh, welcome back. I remember you. I want to show you some of my new products. Okay? You want to sort of weave that kind of language into your emails. Now, at this stage, because we're very early stage, all this retargeting stuff, we're talking about existing customers that we're going to promote new products to. Okay, because those are the ones that we have the emails for. The ones that are bought from us, we're going to keep their emails. Well, Shopify will keep it for you, so don't worry about that. But we are basically going to be targeting existing customers because we have their emails. And what we're going to do is we will do it manually to start with, and we will send no more than 1 every 10 days. So let's think about a real world example. You've got some customer who's bought something off you and you've got his email. Great. Now, you put on 2 or 3 more products onto your site. Now, you want to construct a nice email and send it to that customer. Along the lines of, hey, you're a valued customer, blah, blah, blah. We've added some new products to our store, which we thought you might be interested in. Something along those lines that you do once every 10 days. Do not start doing it a lot because you'll upset the customer, and that's the last thing you want because, then they'll get annoyed. They'll start deleting your emails and they'll forget about your store entirely. But it really is as simple as that at this stage. Gathering your emails, maybe putting somewhere an automated calendar to have a look at something every 10 days to see if you can send out emails for any new products that you might have added to your store, and keep it as simple as that. Now, email marketing is like all of these subjects. It can get very complicated and get massive. Okay, and if you Google around at email marketing, you're quickly going to bump into companies like MailChimp and Aweber. And these are amazing pieces of software that can automate your email process. They can make it look extremely professional with templates and all kinds of very, very cool stuff. And of course, there is a monthly fee associated with that as well. In the beginning, you don't really need to worry about this. Okay, in the beginning, you will have a certain number of sales. Maybe once you start getting over 100 or 200 emails, you might want to, at that point, start looking at some of these more complex packages. But right now, just keep it simple. Manage your own list, treat it with respect, Send out to existing customers when you've got new products and invite them back to your store to view them in a very nice manner, and you'll be fine. So we just looked at two very powerful, free and relatively simple techniques to retarget people back to your site. So you're starting to get a feel for what this whole retargeting thing is all about by now, I'm sure. Now, I said in a previous lecture that you should use those free techniques until you start to get your whole business is starting to grow, you're starting to make money, you're starting to make decent profit. And once you've got to that point, you then might want to start looking at retargeting with Facebook. Now, this is a huge subject, and in fact it's growing as well. It's amazing what you can do with Facebook in terms of retargeting. So this lecture is relatively short, and the idea here is to just whet your appetite as to what is possible. So I'm going to sort of start with a very simple example, which is going to get your creative juices thinking of what's possible, okay? But just to repeat, please don't get bogged down in this unless you are really starting to do really quite well with your site and you've got a bit of money in the bank to play with, because of course this is a paid technique, right? Unlike the last two. So what I'm going to look at is how are you going to get people back to your site who previously visited it. Yeah. So basically people who've come to your site and they've done whatever on your site, whether they bought, whether they added to cart, whether they just had a look, whatever it might be, we want to basically bring those people back. Okay, so that's a very simple problem, equation, whatever, that we want to solve. Okay, and of course we're talking about people who have a Facebook account. Yeah, Facebook can't retarget people on any old website. They've got to have a Facebook account. Okay, in the first place. Now there's 1.7 billion or whatever it is people with Facebook accounts, so there's a good chance. But we're not talking about everybody here on the internet. It's purely people with Facebook accounts. So let me show you how you can set this up. So the first thing you want to do is from your menu system, you want to find the audiences. So if I click into here, I go to all tools, I can find it here under assets. And again, yours might be a slightly different setup, but you'll be able to find it relatively easy. So once you're there, just click on audiences. And you'll be presented with this page, reach the people who matter to you. And you can see there are three options. There are custom audiences, lookalike audiences, and saved audiences. And what I'm going to talk about are custom audiences right now. This is the one that you want to get going with in the first place, should you choose to do this form of retargeting. And if you read it, it says, connect with the people who have already shown an interest in your business or product. Okay, that's the key. Okay, you can create audiences from your custom contacts, website traffic, or mobile app. Well, in the beginning, we don't have any customer contacts and we don't have a mobile app to talk about either. So what we're going to be talking about is primarily website traffic. So if we click on create a custom audience, you get a bunch more options. Now, I told you this was complicated, so again, I'm taking you to the most effective way to start this in the beginning. And what you want to go with is website traffic, okay? Create a list of people who visited your website or took specific actions using the Facebook pixel. All the things that we've set up in the past, we can now start to really leverage and get advantage of. So when I click on website traffic, I get this little form that pops up, create my custom audience. Now what this will do will retarget, if you just look at these defaults here, all of my website visitors in the past 30 days. So anybody who had visited my site in the last 30 days, I can create an audience and then I can retarget them on Facebook. Okay, that is enormously powerful. Now if we just explore this a little bit further and click on this drop down arrow, we do get various other options. People who visited a specific web page on my site I might want to target. Or if we go down here a bit further and add to cart, or maybe just viewed any page. But if we just leave it the simplest version for the time being, all website visitors, so that I can demonstrate to you how we would actually use this, then I'm just going to give it an audience name. So I'm going to call it all website visitors last 30 days. Okay, and of course I could change that number. I could go 30 days or 60 days. 30 days is a pretty good starting point. So then all I want to do is create my audience. And you arrive on your audiences page where this is the first audience that you will have created. Now, just to remind you, if I hover over this, this is a custom audience, all right? So now I'm going to show you how we would actually use that. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to head over here and quickly create a new campaign. So let's go to conversions as always. And we'll just call this one, whoops, test. Now what I want to do is go straight to the audience section. And as I just reminded you, we're talking about custom audiences, so this is where it would appear. Now if you put the cursor in here, your predefined custom audiences are going to pop up. So here you see it, all website visitors last 30 days. Now at the moment, because this thing has just been set up, and of course I'm just doing a test site, there really isn't any significant data in there of use. But if you were to set this up right in the beginning, for example, just literally just set up this custom audience, then Facebook over time will be gathering that information. That bit's not going to cost you anything. And then if later on down the road you want to make use of it, you have a very valuable asset that you can really take advantage of. So I hope you can see just with that brief demonstration the power of retargeting with Facebook. Now, as I said before, this is a paying technique, and my general advice to anybody, in fact anybody in business, is to manage your cash flow carefully. Don't be necessarily tempted to throw a lot of money at this in the beginning. When you are making money, when you do have a proven product, then come to this and it's going to give your sales potentially a huge boost. So we just had a look on Facebook and how we can retarget people who visited your site, who are then later back on Facebook and see your ads again, building that brand, building that awareness, driving them back to your site. But what about when we visit other sites? Yeah, we're not just visiting Facebook. There are plenty of other great sites out there. You know, what about if, I don't know, we go and visit the news site, or we go and book a flight, or whatever it is? It would be nice to basically remind people as they move around the web about our brand and about our products. Now, that's where Facebook becomes limited, but where companies such as this, AdRoll, for example, come into their own. These are the companies that if you've ever experienced what seems like an ad following you around the internet, it's probably going to be AdRoll or one of its competitors who are behind it, because these techniques start to get incredibly powerful and potentially incredibly expensive. So, you know, this is just a kind of to let you know, I'm not encouraging to use these products at all. This really is for advanced stuff, but I just want you to realize what's out there, because, you know, you're going to build out a fantastic, profitable store, and you're going to start thinking once you start making sales, well, how can I increase my sales? So I just want you to be aware of some of the possibilities out there. AdRoll is one of these, okay? It's going to basically place your ads all over the place, following those customers around as they visit various sites. Now, just for the sake of balance, there are, of course, AdRoll competitors. This is another one, retargeter, and you'll find, you know, 3 or 4 major ones and, you know, tens or potentially hundreds of smaller ones. So, you know, have a look at these, you know, enjoy watching their promotional videos and what they can do, but please don't get bogged down in this. It's purely here to, you know, to excite you a bit and to make you really think about what the possibilities are in the future for your business.